Hi, folks, and welcome to another Sunday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt, recounting the days of my life, the jobs I had, and the fun things I had. I left off with September 11th, 2001, a day the world will never forget. That's the day I lost my job when I just started it. They were going to be closed on Mondays. They were going to open up on Tuesday. And he said, but go ahead, because he told me, he said, hey, Matt, he said, look, we're still moving. He told me this Monday. He said, we're still moving things into the office. That's what it was. They weren't taking off. They were moving things in the office. He said, maybe Wednesday. No, he said, come in Tuesday. I said, well, I'll help out. He said, well, yeah, come over. He said, we may not make it there. We're going to load up the truck and be there around 10 or something, or noon. He said, so don't come until then. I said, sure, I'll help you move stuff, because they were still moving into the office. And so I remember that morning I got to sleep in. And when I woke up, my buddy, my roommate at the time, Jonathan, goes, America's under attack. They're bombing us everywhere. And I was like, wait, what? It was like 10 in the morning. We just sat there and watched TV. And that's when I got a call from him. He was like, hey, man, look, this isn't going to work. This is kind of going to put a wrench in everything. So we're just going to shut everything down. I was like, wait, what? And then when I hung up, my buddy goes, who was that? I went, I think I just got fired from the job I was about to start this week. We're like, oh, well. So we watched the 9/11 drama play out. And then I remember I just had a odd and end jobs here and there, not really that much until I went about 6 months without a job, my little siesta, having fun, partying where I could. And finally, a buddy of mine who I used to work out with, because once I graduated, I still worked out at the intramural center at the college, because you could do that for cheap. Maybe I should try to get back there. I never thought about that. Maybe I should get a check and see what a membership would cost there. I'm still a graduate, but either way, I would work out there with another buddy of mine, and he said, "Well, heck, man, come work with me." He worked at AmSouth Bank, a regional bank in the southern states, and I was like, "Sure." And he was a big VP, and I was like, "All right." I said, "But look, if I go." And this is back in like March or whatever. No, wait. I'm getting my days mixed up. This was in January, so maybe my siesta only lasted for 3.5 months or so. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. 'Cause I think it was, yeah. It had been end of January. And so I said, make sure that I interview with the big boss. I said, you better give me an interview with don't give me an interview with some peon. All right? Because it's always the interview, the pre-screening interview before the big interview. He went, hey, I'll set you up. Don't worry, buddy. I'll set you up. Well, William was his name. William was known for practical pranks. I still talk to him every year. I send him a message saying Happy Thanksgiving. And we laugh. And so anyway, I said, you know what? I hope you don't waste my time. So I go into the office. I sit down in the office. I see this guy's name, and it says sales manager. I was like, that's not the regional president. That's who I wanted to talk to. This is garbage. So the guy comes in. We shake hands. I said, his name was Scott McDonald. I said, are you Scott McDonald? He said, yeah. And so we sat back and we're talking. And he goes, so what job? He said, so have you done banking before? I said, no, but it's easy. He said, you think it's easy? I said, yeah. I can do just about any job you want. He went, really? I said, yeah, I could do your job. And I'm busting his nuts on purpose, because I'm thinking, William set me up with this doofus, and I asked for the bigwig. I asked to speak to the regional president, not sales manager. And so I'm just being rude and doing this. And he said, really? I said, yeah. I said, what is it you do here? He went, I'm the regional president. And I stopped. I sat up in my chair and went, you're what? He went, I'm the regional president for AmSouth Bank. And I went, wait, are you Scott McDonald? I pointed down at the nameplate. He said, yeah. I went, but your business card here says sales manager. He went, you know what? I've been meaning to change that for months now. I thought I got fired. I thought, oh my gosh, I blew this. And I felt deflated. I said, oh, okay, well, thank you, sir. Thank you. And I walked out. Now, I was like, oh my gosh, William gave me the shot. He did let me talk to the regional president. And I was so rude to him. And so I was like, I got fired. I called William. I said, dude, I blew it, man. You blew it? I said, yes. I said, I didn't know he was the regional president. What'd you say to him? And he laughed and laughed and went, hold on, let me call you back. And he called Scott, and then he called me back and said, hey, Scott loves you. He said, I told him what you told me, and he started laughing. He went, that makes a lot of sense. He said, yeah. He said, I wasn't offended. He said, in fact, I thought he was just overconfident. He said, but when you said that, and that was the whole thing, he thought it was a joke, so he was joking with you. I love it. He said, tell me he's hired. And this was early February. He said he can come in that Monday. So I was so excited, so thankful. And I remember I was in Mobile, Alabama. And that was a crazy week, too, because I happened to be visiting my grandmother. Did not know that my parents were driving through to go to some little conference in Florida. And Dad came in. I was like, what are you doing here? He said, what are you doing here? Because I didn't have a job. I'm going, hanging out with me, Mom. He's like, well, I'm dropping your mom off because I got to go to a conference. And she don't want to go. And he said, they got me a nice, my own little condo because Dad was one of the speakers. I went, can I go? He's like, yeah. I was like, cool. So I went with him and stayed in the condo that he and Mom were supposed to be in. And then when I got back that next week, we stayed the weekend with her. And that's when I got the call that I was hired at AmSouth. I was like, dude, I need to get, because I was going to stay another couple of days there because they were going to stay a couple of days. I was like, dang it, I got to go. I got a job. So drove all the way back Sunday evening, got up the next morning, dressed up to the nines, walked up to the front door, and they were closed. It was President's Day. I remember. Oh, wait. Was it President's Day or Columbus Day? Maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was shortly after. I can't recall now. It was one of the bank holidays that weren't the day that you don't really celebrate, but they do. It was either President's Day or Columbus. I don't remember, but they were closed. I was pissed because I thought I got punked. So Tuesday, I showed up late on purpose. Just came strolling in 2 hours late. And William was like, where you been, man? This is back before cell phones were a big thing. He's like, where you been, dude? They're looking for you. I went, I figured since I showed up here to work yesterday for a couple hours, I could take a few hours off. And he started laughing. He said, dude, I swear to you, I forgot. We're going to be closed on President's Day or whenever it was. I was like, yeah, whatever. And the regional president laughed about it too. But I mean, I should have gotten fired again. Showing up late was so disrespectful now, but me and William had this kind of camaraderie. And so I shouldn't have done that now I'm thinking about it, but I did. And a lot of fun stuff. And got the job. I remember I was sitting there with a room full of other people, and I thought, I am going to succeed farther than anybody at this table. And sure enough, one by one, those people did not stick around. And I remember, like, a few years later, sitting back at that conference room and remembering looking at all of those other people and going, and because I was sitting at the head of the table, I went, I will still be here standing when you fools are gone. And I did. I outlasted them all. Super proud of that moment. But either way, though, that was I am at AmSouth Bank now. What is my top 5? Okay, I wasn't going to tell this one, but I guess I will. So this girl came in, young, pretty girl, red hair. I remember thinking, wow, she's super cute. I was a loan officer at this point, and she came in, and she was in college. Probably freshman, sophomore, kind of young in college too. But of course I was fresh out of college. So the age difference wasn't that big. But she had a crush on me. I had no idea. I just thought, man, she's pretty. But I didn't think she had a crush on me. When she came in, she went Victoria's Secret shopping and was showing me all of her lacy undies. And I remember going, because I'm thinking, customers can see. We had glass walls, and so the tellers could see. And she's holding up panties and everything. I'm going, yeah, those are really nice too. Oh, that's a nice little lingerie thing. And she's just trying to say, let's hook up. I am embarrassed out the wazoo. I don't think she know. I had no idea she liked me, and I was totally clueless. But I'm here just embarrassed. Like, man, customers are watching. If they see this, I don't know what they're going to be thinking. I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And so she walked, and I am red in the face, and the tellers are hooting and hollering. And I said, Matt, what was she showing you her underwear? I said, underwear that she just bought. And they're just laughing, and I'm just red. They said, look how red you are. And I was so embarrassed. Well, then they called this lady's mother, who was a customer. The mom showed up, and then I was mortified when the mom came in. She went, was, I can't remember what her name was. I said, was Courtney here earlier? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, did she show you the underwear she bought? I said, yes, ma'am. She went, I am so embarrassed, young man. I was like, I'm sorry. She went, no, don't be. She said, she said, she thinks you're cute. And I was going, wait, what? But it turned out because when next time, she didn't come into the office, and when next time I saw the mom, I said, hey, where's Courtney been or whatever? She's like, oh, she's dating some boy now. So I guess I wasn't that bad. I guess she showed the underwear off and said, wow, this guy doesn't care. So done. Splitsville. ABC ya. So I scratched out this one. I was like, should I tell this story? But, she didn't show me the underwear she was wearing. But anyway, number 4. This is back when I was a teller. There's another guy called Matt there. His name was Matt Bratton. I do miss this guy. I don't know where he is. I know he doesn't live here anymore, but I do miss him because he was a brat. He was called Bad Matt. I was called Good Matt. When we worked together, we had a blast. And I remember there was a guy who never signed the back of his check. Never. And he looked kind of slow, country guy, beat up pickup truck, thick Coke bottle glasses. And every night he'd come in and shoot through the drive-through. The lobby would be closed. We were open the drive-through till about 6. And he'd just shoot it in there. And I'd send it back. And I'd say, dude, you need to sign it. He would never sign it. He always forgot to sign his checks. Well, one day he sent it and he signed it. I was like, no way. And I told the other Matt, I said, look, dude, this dude signed his check. He went, well, he deserves a doggy biscuit. And he threw a doggy treat in there, which is what we give dogs, people with dogs. And he shot it back. And I was like, what are you doing? And so he got it. He went, and he said, he looked at the dog biscuit and went, thanks. And he bit into it. We hit the deck. We were laughing so hard. And he's ringing the bell afterwards. And I'm going, I can't. And Matt, the other Matt who gave him the dog biscuit, said, you got to do it, dude. He said, I can't. You talk to him. I can't talk to him. Dude, I can't talk to him. And I was like, oh, so I got up from the window. We were crouched underneath the window. And I came up from the window, turned on my mic, went, yes, sir. He went, this is a dog biscuit. And I went, yes, sir, it is. He said, I don't have a dog. And I went, oh, we thought you had a dog back there. You don't have a dog in the... Oh, there is no dog back there. I swear I saw a dog traveling with you. He went, no. I was like, oh, sorry about that. And he went, okay. And he drove off. Funniest thing in the world. More drive-through fun stories. Let me see. Where am I here? Oh, that was 4. Oh, yeah. 3. Yeah. I knew that was coming up next. I marked these down earlier. Another fun story that me and Matt did as well. All the ladies had left for lunch all together. It was a slow day. And so they all got to take lunch. We told them, we got this. We got the lobby. We got the drive-through. It's dead today. Y'all go off. Y'all go off and have a group lunching. Me and Matt got it. Well, some girl had brought a big trash bag full of Barbies because her girl had grown up and wasn't doing Barbies anymore. And the other lady grew up. The other lady had a girl who was into Barbies. So she was passing the bag of Barbies to her. So we looked in there, and the other Matt had just come in and was like, what is this? And he opened up, why there's a bag of Barbies here? I went, and I told him, I said, oh, she's giving it to so-and-so because her daughter doesn't play with Barbies, and his daughter does. He went, oh, okay. And then he goes, hey, dude, do you think we could fit a Barbie in the canister and shoot it through the... I said, I don't know. Well, man, her legs would not bend, and we kept trying to force that Barbie doll in there. We tried all sorts of poses, trying to cram her into the thing. And while he started doing that, I was just lining up all these Barbie dolls. Most of them were naked, just on the windowsill, because there was no one around. We were bored. And finally, as he got one in the canister, and he showed me how I did it, we got all of them in the canister and fired them off down the canister at one time. And after we'd done that, that was when 1 million cars came in and people started coming into the lobby. One guy came through the drive-thru, saw the Barbies on the window. I did a just hand sweep off the Barbies, helped him. Someone's going, hey, there's like a toy jammed in here. And we were like, yes, can you send that back to us, please? We couldn't recall. We had to recall all the canisters and pull Barbie out. Barbies were all over the floor, and we're like just swamped all of a sudden. Well, then the ladies come back. They see we're swamped. They open up their registers, and they start helping too. And then when it finally calms down again, they look around at all the Barbies everywhere. They're all over the floor. And they go, guys, were y'all playing with the Barbies when we were gone? And me and Matt looked at each other and went, well, yeah, but not the way you'd think. And, of course, the whole situation, very hilarious, and they started laughing. Another honorable mention, and if I ever see Deanna again, that's another woman I'd love to see. She was the sweetest person in the world, but she was a little bit frisky, let's say, and she would tell me stories. She had sex in the office several times after closing. She goes, yeah, that's why I like to stay late, because sometimes, when that customer comes in, and I was like, wait, what? And then she goes, oh, yeah, we even did it in the safe one time. And I went, wait. And I thought she was kidding, but she wasn't. Okay. So, no, I never hooked up with Deanna, but she was older than me. And I remember Heather was the other girl. And Heather was really nice, too. They were both nice. And I've got a story involving, well, not Deanna. Deanna had already left by then, but Heather was still around. And let's see. From there, let's see. That's number 3? I have a super list here. Let me see. Number 2. Wait, this sounds the same. Number 2 and number... Oh, wait, right. So, what had happened? I had been passed up for promotion after promotion after promotion. This is before I became a loan officer. And I was just a teller, and I wanted to be a loan officer. And they always hired outside the company. They would never promote within. And I was pissed. So I remember her name, Tony Bacon. She's in some public office right now, because I just called her last year to congratulate her, because I still have her number. And she was leaving to a new bank, and I said, I want to go with you. And first off, I had the biggest crush on her. She was way older than me. This is a Mrs. Robinson situation, but I was like, oh, anything you say, Miss Tony, I'll go with you. But anyway, I said, let's go. So me, and I remember it was one other girl, Leanne. I know she was leaving with me. They were becoming branch managers, and I was going to be I was going to be a loan officer. Under Tony. Under Tony, I think. And so we had all planned to jump ship to this other bank at the same time, and I got looped in with that deal, and so I agreed, and we all turned in our 2 weeks on the same day. We were all at different places, but we were all leaving. And so what I did, a lot of people, when they turn their 2 weeks, they're in screw it mode, right? F it mode is what I call it. And they don't care about if they work, come in late, whatever. And there's a lot of people who just ended up quitting, because they didn't care. They had bad attitudes. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make them regret that they let me go. That's what I said. And so I worked my patootie off for like 2 weeks. There was whoever had the most referrals, teller referrals, got a little bonus. And so my teller referrals, I was so far ahead that my teller referrals, you could add up everyone else's in the bank, all the other tellers, and they would equal my referrals. I had way more referrals than anyone else. In fact, I had one investment referral that ended up being it was a 6-figure sum that they invested in the bank. The investor called me up and said, I am taking you to lunch. And he was telling me, he said, dude, this is what I'm talking about. You give me customers like this, I will take you out to eat. I will give you $50, $100 referral. He said, that guy spent 6 figures with us because you did it. He said, I need more people like you out there. I said, well, I'm leaving. He went, what? I said, yeah, I turned in my 2 weeks. I'm gone, man. His name was Colin. I remember saying, I'm gone, Colin. Because he was like saying, I'll even try to get you, you can even start working with me in the investments department. I said, well, I'm gone. I said, it's too late. All right. Yeah, I got hired at Community Trust, man. I'm Splitsville. I'm not staying here. And he was like crushed. He's like, man, you were one of the best ones we had. I said, yeah, they want to get rid of me. And so I remember my very last day, at the very last hour, Jerry Maguire was a movie. and we had a fish tank. And yes, I did the scene I watched Jerry Maguire on VHS the night before, memorized the Tom Cruise scene where he said, "Who's coming with me?" And when he says, "This fish is coming with me." So I was going to take the fish in the little water Ziploc bag and then say, "Who is coming with me?" So I went to go for the fish tank, but the other loan officer there forbade me to get that fish out of the fish tank. I said, I'm not going to take it with me. But anyway, I said, "Who's coming with me?" And then one teller said, "I will go with you." And then all the tellers said that, and we got to laugh. And I was like, "Hey, that's not how it goes. Only one of you can be," and I can't remember what the actress's name is. When we're all laughing, well, then out of the branch manager's office comes Scott McDonald, the regional president. He goes, "Matt, can you come in the office for a minute?" We'd already closed for the evening. I was just goofing around with the girls, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was there." I don't know if he saw my whole skit or not. And I thought, oh my gosh, officially, I am now off the clock. I was leaving when I did my speech because they said I didn't have to close up. I could go home. And I was like, oh no. He caught me mocking the bank. I was like, oh, rats. Because I didn't want to burn any bridges. I don't like burning bridges. So I walked in there and he sat me down. He said, "Hey, we want to make you an offer to stay. What will it take to get you to stay?" And I went, "What, now? Now?" I said, "Scott, officially, I am now done with AmSouth." He went, this is your last day. I realize that." I said, "I'm about to walk out this door. And now?" I was getting mad. I said, "Now you want to offer me?" And he said, "Yes. What will it take to get you to stay?" I said, "Okay." I said, I want a loan officer position at this branch," which I knew they'd already filled the position, so I wasn't getting it. I said, I want one at this branch, and I want to start Monday with a 20% increase in my salary. And he said, "Done." I said, "What's done?" He went, "Everything you just mentioned." And my first thought was, I should have asked for 40. But they gave me everything. In fact, I said, "Where am I going to sit? You don't have any offices." He went, "If you don't mind, you can sit out here in the lobby. We'll give you a desk and everything." And eventually I got to move into a small little office, but they gave me a desk on the floor, and that's where I worked. And the next Monday, and I had to call. Remember, his name was Danny Van, and I heard he was pissed that I'd stayed. And then I also remember that Tony called me and went, "Wait, did Scott make you an offer?" I went, "Yeah." "Well, he didn't make y'all an offer?" "Nope, he didn't offer any of the ladies to stay. He offered me to stay." And it was basically because he said, "You've been putting in some super hard work, and I wish you would have done this earlier. We would have noticed you." I went, "No, I've been doing excellent work for years, or a year now, and you haven't noticed me." So getting the promotion, that was a pretty good day. Quit, when I was turning my 2 weeks, and then eventually decided to stay, got my promotion. But eventually, life didn't always work out because I ended up hating it. The bank was really, what happened was they went heavy on sales. Like, we were cold calling people at their homes in the evening. This is back before it was illegal. But we were doing this, and I hated bothering people. And I remember there was this one lady, and I cannot for the life of me remember, I think it was Jennifer Black or whatever, and she was a witch. She was the wicked witch is what I call her. She was a stone hard, ice cold witch. I hated her. She didn't care about anyone or anything. And we were doing late night calls. I called a customer, asked her how she's doing. She said, "Not good. I just found out I have cancer. I'm going to be dying, and my family and my kids, instead of, caring for me, they're fighting over who gets what." And so she started crying. Well, then I dropped my script, of course. I'm not going to offer her a home equity line of credit. So I offered her a listening ear and told her it's going to be all right. And, my name's Matt. And she said, "Well, what did you call me for? I know you didn't call me to hear me complain." No, man, we're just calling customers, seeing if there's anything we can do for them. In fact, I said, "You sound like you need someone to talk to. So if ever you need me, I'm at this branch. You come in. I'm one of the loan officers here. I will, if I'm with a customer, if you'll be patient, I'll take the time. Or if you want to call me at any time and just talk, I'd love it." And she went, "Thank you so much." You know what? She went, I didn't really peg AmSouth Bank to be this caring. She said, "But it really makes me feel great that I'm with y'all, and I didn't know y'all like this, and and she thanked me, and it meant a lot to her. And I said, you're welcome, ma'am. And we hung up. Now, the phone call lasted an hour. Terry Black. That was her name, Terry. And I know Terry came up to me and said, did you get the sale? I went, no. I said, it's an older lady. She just found out she got cancer. And she went, well, I don't care, Matt. You should have said, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm at work now, and I can't take personal. I looked at her and went, you're kidding, right? And she went, no, you can't be spending an hour on the phone if it's not a sale. And I remember I got up, and I told my branch manager I quit and walked out the door. And, of course, she chased me down the parking lot. Don't quit. I'll talk to Terry. And they brought me back in there, and I told Terry off. I said, you will die alone with that attitude. I said, you are just heartless. I just laid into her. That is not what we're about. We're about the customer. I did not get fired. I'm assuming Scott stepped in for me, the regional president, because she was pretty high up there. But I let her have it. I was pissed. And in my mind, I'd already quit. So I was not fired, even though I quit, but they made me come back the next day, and I was still at it. They said, you won't do any more cold calling. Terry left. It's okay. We're not going to make you do anything like that. I said, no, you don't understand. I quit. I'm done. I'm done with it. And so what they did is they let me turn in my 2 weeks with the exception, it was a 2-month notice. Basically, from there on out, the deal was I could work at AmSouth for as long as I wanted and apply for other jobs. And when I got another job, I could quit right then and there. It sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly how the world went. As I did my job, I also went out looking for other jobs. And I remember I did not find a job. And on Memorial Day, they had us come in, because sometimes the bank, we were just so busy back in the day, and we had to do paperwork on Memorial Day. We had to do some catch-up time while the bank was closed. They were going to pay us time and a half. And I was like, no way. That landed on my birthday. And I was like, no freaking way am I going. I'm working Memorial Day on my birthday. They said, yeah, we all have to do it. And I went, today's the day I quit. I looked at her, I went, today's my last day. I quit. She went, you have a job? I went, doesn't matter. You said anytime I want to quit. And by the way, when I turned in my 2 weeks the first time, they did give me a free surf and turf meal, like steak and lobster. This time, I don't think I got one. But I did quit. And that was a big memory I had there, which was my number one memory. Overall, and by the way, 2 weeks later, they'd end up firing they got bought out by regions is what had happened. And so we were slowly turning into regions. I think Terry was a regions person. And that's why she was kind of taking over and Scott was stepping to the side because she was also a regional president for Regions Bank. And we were slowly being taken over. And I knew it wasn't going to look good anyway, that they were probably going to replace us because there was a Regions Bank right down the road from where we worked. Oddly enough, they closed that store. They closed that branch and kept ours and it's still a Regions today. I haven't been in it in years. Maybe I should go in there and reminisce, see what it's like. It's not a bad idea now that I think about it. But anyway, got a lot of catching up to do in my past life. But anyway, they ended up firing most of the people there because there was someone had pulled some fraud. A customer was pulling fraud and walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was the bank's fault for letting it go on. But I knew I never helped the guy. I never got the guy any money from that account because I knew he went on the account. But he had tricked everyone. And he avoided me. I knew there was something shifty about him. But when I came in, I was like, hey, where is everyone? And one of the tellers started crying. She said, did you know that guy wasn't the owner? I said, yes, he's not on the account. I went, wait, what happened? And they told me that he'd convinced them that he was the manager or owner of the account, and somehow they'd given him, he cleaned out hundreds of thousands of dollars from him. And so they fired just about everyone involved. Everyone in control at the bank. So that was a bloody, bloody day, and I just missed that by 2 weeks, I remember. Because I'd still go back to my old stomping grounds and say hello, because, again, I don't like burning bridges. And I still, to that day, whenever I switch jobs, I'd always go back and say hello to let the past job know there was no hard feelings. But overall, the days of AmSouth were good, and, of course, I rode them to the very end, because just about a month or so later, a few weeks later, they became Regions Bank. Oh, and for Terry, by the way, I got a call from Scott McDonald like a few years later. Terry called asking for my number, but she just gave the story to Scott. She apologizes to me because sure enough, her husband and children left her. And I said, you're going to die alone with that attitude. And so supposedly she's not as cold-hearted as she was. And he said she wanted me to tell you that she remembered that day when I said, you will die alone. And she wanted to say thank you. That was something she should have taken heed of. And now she's trying to live her life differently, but she wanted me to know that I was right. So, Terry, wherever you are, you're definitely not listening to this podcast. You're still a cold-hearted witch. All right, folks, we'll see you next time on Saturday Morning Samoflange.